So I broke down and listened to J. Cole's song "What If," along with a few snippets from some of the other songs on his new album, "The Fall Off." Look, if you know me, you know that I will listen to almost anything at least once, as long as somebody is recommending it to me. Even if I'm not particularly enthused about the artist, I'll even listen to artists that I hate if someone really wants to have a meaningful discussion about the music, because I don't want to be uninformed, and I do genuinely want to make an attempt to understand someone else's perspective, their aesthetic taste. The only time I will not listen to an artist is for like ethical reasons, like namely if I think that I'm funding through the streams or ads some artists that I find to be like morally abhorrent, like Drake or P Diddy. So yes, I heard some. I at least heard one of J. Cole's song almost all the way through. Um, I I lied. I heard large chunks of it, but I just honestly got too pissed off at some point. There were a few songs that I skimmed because honestly, let's be honest, I was like more or less the fall off was more or less same old J. Cole. I want to be clear about something. Yes, I find J. Cole's music to be completely uninteresting on multiple levels. But this is not a music review. If you like his music, you like his music. Stand on it. I don't care. Different people connect to different music, and I won't get on your case for having your own opinion, even if we disagree. Right? Our disagreement doesn't mean that you can't enjoy an artist. Okay. Also, I want to be clear about something. I'm not doubling back on J. Cole here because of J. Cole himself. No, it's actually because of everyone else who listens to his music and has told me that Cole is deep, introspective, in touch with his feelings, mature, or something in this vicinity. If you buy that image that J. Cole is selling, then you and I need to have a discussion about how you assess other people. I started this series on how not to be a bitch because I believed from my own experience that too many people do not have clarity in seeing bitches for bitches. If you haven't been listening to my other episodes, what I mean by bitch here is someone that is in the body of a grown adult, but who has the maturity of a child. That to me is a bitch. And my concern is that if you see J. Cole as this deep, introspective, mature guy, then you don't have a good eye for seeing people, because J. Cole to me is clearly a bitch. He lacks all the things that you say he has. He's the furthest thing from being mature. He's a 20-year-old in a 40-year-old man's body. And I think the song "What If" really demonstrates my point. I really need to drive this point home because I personally believe that it is very difficult to identify a mature grown adult when you are not that already yourself, which is why, it is at least important to help people see who, they should be looking to as a genuine role model of a mature person. Okay. My concern is that if you think that J. Cole is that mature person, you're going to be on a path to bitchdom. Okay. Why am I talking about this now? Because honestly, I didn't give two shits about J. Cole for his entire career. Right. I never bothered with him. I never paid attention to him. Like, he was always an afterthought for me. Again, because I didn't connect with his music. And because I never paid attention to him, I didn't really have an opinion on who he was as a person, right? Like, why would I? Like, I don't even like the idea of him as a person or his music. None of it just ever crosses my mind, right? I just knew that I found his music to be the dictionary definition of meh. But since the battle with Kendrick, I started paying attention to what he put out there in the world. As I'm sure a lot of people started paying more attention because of what went down. And I didn't have a clarity on exactly who he was at first, but I got this sense that he was a bitch. Like, it was just like but I didn't want, I wouldn't confirm or deny it at least in the beginning. after actually listening to what he says and does in interviews and in his music, because, you know, people, I've been trying to understand why people like J. Cole, and people will give me recommendations for things to listen to. It has become crystal clear to me just how much of a bitch he is. And so this one is really for the J. Cole fans out there, or people who view J. Cole in a certain way, that maybe are blinded by his music or the impression that he gives off. Um, Look, if he was meaningful, his music was meaningful for you and moved you and helped you get through some shit, that's fine. That's what music is supposed to do. What I want here is for you to open your fucking eyes without the blinders of fandom or whatever the hell is going on, and start being honest about who J. Cole is as a person, based off of at least what he's thrown out to the public. Okay. I hope I can give you at least some reason to revisit his work and then see what it is that I'm picking up on that really clearly demonstrates to me that J. Cole is a certified bitch. Okay. Now, to be clear, my position here is not grounded just in this one song, What If. There are plenty of instances in the past where J. Cole presented himself to be a passive aggressive, cowardly bitch. I'm talking moments when he would sneak diss other rappers, but then deny it, or what I think is a fake apology afterwards, right? We'll return to this fake apology stuff, I think, at some point. Or just straight gaslighting people. He's done this a lot, I think. He's been throwing rocks and hiding hands for years. But I'm just using What If, the song What If, as a way to discuss J. Cole's bitchness, because this song fucking pissed me off. And I think J. Cole needs to apologize to Biggie and Tupac immediately. And I'll explain why later. So let's take a look at what J. Cole is doing in this particular song. First off, I'm not going to let J. Cole do his usual, oh, that's not what I was saying bullshit, okay? I think J. Cole knows exactly what he's doing. J. Cole does this often with his music, where he uses other people to express how he feels. But then because it's one removed, there's like plausible deniability, okay? Yeah, he's a storyteller, all right. A cowardly one, where he usually tells these stories of, you know, other people instead of himself, right? What If is just another instance of this, right? Where he is, you know, uses a story of someone he knows. I don't even know if some of these people are real when he talks about them, but he uses other people as a mouthpiece to say what it is that he really wants to say himself, okay? So What If is just another instance of this. It's a fan fiction about what might have happened if Biggie and Tupac got together and talked it out, if they heard each other and understood each other better, hugged it out, you know, maybe they wouldn't be dead today. He does this by rapping in the style of each of these iconic rappers. Again, we could, side note is for like those of you who are interested in, you know, talking about music itself. I didn't think he did a good job of either, but you know, that's up for discussion. Like we could talk about it. I honestly don't think that this was creative in the least bit. If you think that this approach, this concept was creative, I question your taste in music and your ability to detect what's creative. Look, this is the furthest thing from being creative. The entire concept reeks of some shit a high schooler would have come up with, and then gasses it up as if it was something really cool and novel and shit. Okay, like that's not what this was. All right, but let's set that aside. What is J. Cole up to here? It's pretty obvious to me, and I'm not going to let him get away with it. Okay, he's hinting at his own decision to apologize and drop out of the battle against Kendrick. What If is his indirect way of saying what he already said in Port Antonio. Okay, he's trying to say he did what maybe Biggie and Pac should have done. That he saw that things are going to get violent, like you know it did for them, and chose not to go down that route. Right? He says he always presents himself as some peacekeeper, doesn't want to actually be violent. You know, takes jabs, but they're not meant to be like you know actually violent or scathing and hurtful in some deep way. He's essentially providing a justification for his decision not to battle Kendrick. Plain and simple. Right? That's essentially what he's doing. Okay. What is this then that he's really providing us, it's an excuse. It's J. Cole's excuse. And it's a shit excuse. As I've said before, J. Cole doesn't need to defend his bowing out of the battle. I don't think he owes anybody an explanation for that, honestly. I mean, he did give one, which was fine. He doesn't need to explain himself for deciding not to battle, okay? I don't know who it is that's in his inner circle, but whoever it is, I need them to get this through to him. Like, I need you to get it through his head. Like, he doesn't need to make an excuse for or justify his decision not to battle. I could give two shits about that, okay? He has his reasons, good or bad, and the only one that needs to be at peace with those reasons is honestly him, no one else, okay? But his talking about why he didn't battle in this indirect way tells me that he's hung up on this shit, okay? I'm not, he is, okay? Or maybe the internet is, and maybe he lives on the internet. But if that's the case, you need to get off the internet because the internet is full of some bullshit. J. Cole, I'm talking directly to you here right now, okay? Look, don't worry about the apology or dropping out of the battle, okay? Here's what I think real men are actually asking of you, okay? Speak to why the fuck you talk a big talk, why you continuously sneak diss both before and after the whole K. Drake battle. That's what you need to speak on. You need to speak on the things that you actually need to be held accountable for. And by held accountable for, I'm talking about your own words and actions, right? Look, before the battle, you were taking a lot of sneaky shots at Kendrick and talking a lot of big talk about being the best, which honestly seemed like you were speaking. When I heard it, it sounded like somebody who was speaking words of affirmation into a mirror, like some insecure bitch, because I'm pretty sure no one in hip hop who actually cares about hip hop or deep in it saw you, at least a majority, probably didn't see you as a goat of shit. Okay. Nobody thought you were that guy. Okay. What you're backing out of the battle demanded was not, an explanation of your backing out of the battle, right? It was you're needing to take accountability for all the shit you said before that led up to your being put in that situation where you had to make an apology, right? Look, if you're going to talk big shit and then not stand on it, then you need to be held accountable for all that shit talking you've been doing this whole time. Either acknowledge that you were full of shit and lying the whole time, which is what a man would do, or acknowledge that you used to think that big shit, but then when push comes to shove, you realize that you were wrong and realize that soon enough that you were able to just drop out of the battle instead of engaging and then regretting it later. Okay. Again, that's something that a man would do, is acknowledge this shit. Okay. The thing about being a man is that it doesn't require you to never make mistakes, right? Like I think it's a mistake to think that being a man means that you have somehow developed into the kind of person where you don't ever make mistakes. Like, no, that's not what it is, right? It demands that if you screwed up, you take ownership of your mistakes. You acknowledge it, you be honest about it, and make a genuine effort to be better. That's what it is to be a man, right? What makes you a bitch is hiding from the consequences of your own action. And that's what you're doing when you're not speaking on all that shit you were talking before the beef. Because let's be honest, you were doing a lot of shit talking. You also need to speak on all the big shit you're talking after the beef, right? Look, in the previous episode, I predicted, because look, I told you from experience, I know this, right? Like personal experience, I know this, right? Bitches don't become men overnight. It takes years of work to learn and to grow and to really change who you are from the inside out. I said I didn't expect you to stop talking all that big talk. And from just the little snippets that I've heard, you continue to talk all that big talk. Okay. Which, look, here's one other thing maybe it'll be a conversation for the Discord. Look, what the fuck are you doing talking all that big talk still in Poor Thing? Right? That song rings completely hollow after you dropped out of the battle. Again, it's about accountability. It's about integrity. It's about you continuing to do the same shit talking all that big talk, except now we know that you aren't going to back up any of that talk. Which honestly, if I had been paying attention, I would have known long ago that this is kind of who you were. Okay. Also, why are you picking on someone smaller than you, you bully? Right? Like you're talking all this punk bitch to some dude that is like not at the same level as you. Let's be honest, right? And like all bullies, like when you're doing this, you're just showing your insecurities. You bitch. Okay? If you're going to stand on against someone on the mic, choose a peer, right? Like just go up against, I don't know. At this point, your peer seems more like Drake's punk ass. Okay. So to quickly summarize, look, what if is a sad, indirect, passive aggressive way to try to justify your apology and dropping out of the battle. Something that I honestly didn't need an explanation or excuse for. But you do so by using Biggie and Tupac, their situation, as an explanation for why it was better not to duke it out with diss tracks, but instead to, try to hug it out instead. And as I've been saying, you're focusing on the wrong thing, because what you need to do and what you seem to be ducking is not the accountability for the apology. The apology was fine. It's all the other shit around it that you have not addressed at all and continue to not address. That's the lack of accountability that I'm fucking pissed at. That's what's revealing what kind of a bitch you are. All this sneak dissing and big talk about being the best bullshit, that's what needs to get talked about. The apology merely exposed you for who you are. That's all it did. Hopefully it gave people a reason to start digging into what it is that you actually say and to really take the time to evaluate what kind of a person you really are, at least in what you present in your music. You can start being honest with yourself and accept it, in which case all that braggadocious talk needs to just stop. Okay. Or you can just keep trying to lie to everyone. I don't know. You could go in either direction. Maybe your fans still rock with it, but I want to be clear about something. I ain't no bitch that is going to just accept your lies. Authenticity matters to me. Authenticity matters to hip hop. If you talk shit that you aren't really about, then you're a bitch in my eyes, period. End of story. Now, there's one more thing that J. Cole needs to take accountability for, and that's using Tupac and Biggie in this way. When I heard What If, I was fucking pissed. I am not sure how others felt, but if you really love hip hop, if you were around during the Tupac Biggie deaths like I was, then I wouldn't be surprised if you found yourself feeling at least a little offended on behalf of these iconic rappers, right? I wouldn't be surprised if Kendrick heard this track, got angry, and then recorded some something scathing for J. Cole, right? This is what I've realized about J. Cole. His "let's hug it out, we should be about peace, hey guys, let's not fight" bullshit shows me that he doesn't actually understand genuine love and conflict. For all of you who are on the same boat as J. Cole and preaching this peacemaker shit in the way that he does, I'm about to tell you some shit you really need to think about. Okay. I'm not expecting you to agree. I just want you to think about this. Okay. There is no love without the fight to protect that love. Love and hate go hand in hand. There is no such thing as loving something without hating something else. This seems to be something that J. Cole doesn't understand. And this is why I say he's really not that deep. He doesn't have emotional maturity because he doesn't seem to understand this point. Look, I love hip hop, okay? Which is why I'm out here crashing out over this shit. I believe in gatekeepers in hip hop. Even though I'm not black myself, I understand I am not the person to be demanding anything. But if you ask me whether or not I support there being gatekeepers in hip hop, I would say absolutely yes. Why? Because if you really love something, like if something really matters to you and you treasure it, you protect it. And that means that you protect it against vultures, people who want to take the thing that you love and twist it or use it for their own personal gain to make it something that it's not. Okay. You can't be about love if you aren't also about hate. You need to hate the things that threaten the things that you love. I love humanity. and love the best of what I see in humanity. To protect that, I need to jump out and hate on all the bitch-assetry I see that threatens what is good. If you know anything about Tupac and Biggie's legacy, yes, it was filled with contradictions in the things that they rapped about, but it was also filled with a genuine love for hip hop and a love for their communities. And so also, they're filled with hate, I believe, against those things that threaten what it is that they loved. I mean, this is especially true of Tupac. Tupac was a lot more explicit about this. Look, because love comes hand in hand with hate, you cannot truly love something without engaging in conflict. It is natural. Look, I love my kid. If someone threatens her in any way, there will be conflict. I will be throwing hands if I have to. I will be using whatever means at my disposal to protect what I love deeply. Conflict is not the enemy. Conflict is that natural consequence of love. Here's the thing. You can't resolve real conflict by hugging it out. I learned this from my own failures in married life, okay? Conflicts cannot be resolved by just saying, I love you and hugging it out. That shit is a shallow understanding of the human condition, of human emotions, which is why I think J. Cole has this emotion, the emotional maturity of a 20-year-old. And honestly, that might be giving him too much credit. Real conflict can only be resolved by unpacking a whole lot of shit, both between the individuals involved and within each individual. This whole bullshit of if only Biggie and Tupac had a heart-to-heart combo, maybe they'll still be alive today. It's a whole lot of cap. If it would have taken a lot more to resolve what was going on between them. And you would know that if you had grown up yourself, you 40-year-old bitch. Some conflicts are big enough that talking it out once or sending each other some heartfelt letter ain't gonna do it. Instead, you might need years of rebuilding a relationship, a broken relationship. Or in this case, it required some transformation of an entire industry to address the conflict. Your shallow analysis of the situation tells me that you're a bitch that doesn't understand what it is to love something deeply. This is why the peacemaker types, like the way that Cole presents himself, always pisses me off. It seems like they have no real understanding of what the conflict is, where it's coming from, why it exists, why it's a genuine conflict where the resolution is not going to be as simple as hugging it out. The attempt to gloss over it with a, hey, everyone, let's be all mature here and see the bigger picture is what leads to conflicts never truly getting addressed and instead just simmering underneath the surface. Maturity requires that you understand and embrace conflict as a means to something bigger and better. But only if you walk through that fire, only if you work through that actual conflict. You need to deal with the conflict head on. Saying a few nice things and clearing up a few misunderstandings doesn't actually address deep conflicts. For those Cole fans who think that Cole is deep, I need you to at least consider what I'm saying here, okay? The shit that Cole is saying is not deep. It's not introspection. It's not a reflection of maturity. It's fake maturity, right? It's a completely inaccurate portrayal of what love, hate, and conflict really is. Okay, here's an example for you to ponder. Okay, have you ever had a real conflict with somebody that you cared about? Like somebody you were in a real relationship, like a deep, committed romantic relationship or like a best friend, right? And you got into a heated fight, maybe you felt betrayed by them for some reason or another, and you're disappointed by your friend, okay? Suppose they come to you and said, like, hey, let's not fight. I love you. Let's hug it out. Really think about it. Like if that was their response. Do you really feel all that much better? Do you think whatever led to your feeling hurt or disappointed won't happen again? Maybe the first or second time you're like, okay, I'm going to let it go. Not a big deal. We'll move on from it, right? But by the third or fourth time, you're going to start realizing that nothing underneath the surface was really addressed. And you'll know this because every time that something similar happens, you're going to be thinking about all the other times that person did that to you. Why is that? It's because a real conflict isn't actually addressed. To address the real conflict, you need to have hard talks about why you were upset or hurt. You need to actually have a real heart-to-heart not just clear up some misunderstandings. It requires you to really take some time to empathize with the other person, even if it's difficult for you to do because you feel the way that you do. It requires multiple conversations. It requires people taking it upon themselves to make real changes in their lives, which it doesn't happen overnight. Okay. But it'll take multiple instances of engaging with the other person in a way to show that you really thought about what it is that they said and to show that you're truly sorry. One apology ain't going to cut it for real conflict. Cole shows zero understanding of any of this shit. And it's evident by all his continued big talk that he does afterwards, after the apology. And it shows in the way that he has portrayed what happened between Biggie and Pac. He's fake, he's shallow, he's the guy that says, let's not fight, so that you don't have to address why it is that people are fighting in the first place. That's what Cole shows to me in this track. Finally, Cole needs to apologize to Biggie and Tupac now. Look, you have no idea what Biggie and Tupac meant to me. I mean, they're not on the same level for me personally as much as figures like DMX and Eminem. I've talked about this before, about what, hip hop has meant for me. But still, I grew up with, their music. One of the few albums that I actually bought. I mean, I was broke, so I had to be picky in what I actually bought, or I would just steal the music. But Biggie's Life After Death was one of the few albums that I actually purchased. So look, all this to say, I take this shit seriously. Look, you, Cole, seem to have manipulated history. Or maybe you didn't actually understand the situation at all, which if that's the case, you need to go study what actually happened. Okay. You who say that you're a student of hip hop. Tupac didn't die because of, because Biggie and Tupac didn't talk it out. That's not why Tupac died. There were bigger issues at play, other players, industry shit, like a whole lot of other players involved. And Tupac's death wasn't a result of some back and forth raps between, Tupac and Biggie. Yes, there were some diss tracks back and forth, but it wasn't because of that. I mean, the way that you portrayed what happened between them, like, it makes me question whether or not you're really a student of hip hop, like you say you are. Like, if so, if you really do understand the situation, then you just twisted what happened then to fit your own fucking narrative, you bitch. The fact that you're even implying that Biggie and Tupac might still be alive today, if they were just mature enough to step back and talk it out, is insulting to both Biggie and Tupac. It shows just how immature you are, Cole, you bitch. You do this shit all the time. By using others in this way as a mouthpiece for you, you're implying shit that I honestly believe this. You are responsible for implying this shit. Whether or not you meant it or not, here's what you're implying. You're implying that if Biggie and Tupac saw things the way that you did and just hugged it out, shit wouldn't have gone sideways. You fucking dumb fuck. All you're showing is just how immature that you are and how much you don't carry the spirit of Biggie or Tupac. If either were alive to hear the shit that you're saying, they'd probably slap the shit out of you, especially Tupac, knowing how he is. He wouldn't have let that shit slide. Seeing as how you don't seem to really understand either of them, you need to apologize for putting out this piece of shit song that insults both their legacies. Make it seem as if all they needed to do was hug this shit out, as if they didn't understand that kind of shallow ass shit that you're spewing here. Jesus Christ, I'm so fucking upset right now. I'm going to go listen to Reincarnated to channel the real spirit of Tupac. I swear. I hope Kung Fu Kenny pops out and smacks the shit out of you for doing this to Tupac. J. Cole, you look more and more like Drake with everything that you continue to put out. Someone who has never understood the culture. I mean, I can't believe I'm saying this. I ain't even black. I'm the child of 2 Korean immigrants. Like, what the fuck is that? Cole, seriously, get your shit together. And for all you people who want to tell me that Cole is some deep, introspective, insightful, thoughtful, emotionally mature person, I hate to break it to you, but you're way off. Way off. And just like Drake, time will reveal Cole's bitch assetry to the public if it hasn't already. I just hope that you get ahead of it, because the longer you see Cole as this kind of a role model for anything, or as a reflection of something deep and insightful and emotionally mature, the deeper you're going to fall into this bitch assness. And I'm saying this in all honesty. Don't become a bitch like Cole. Please.